Who doesn't want to declutter faster and more efficiently? In today's video, I'm going to give you several tips on how to do this. Instead of waiting until you get into the decluttering process to decide what you're going to keep, decide first. If you're decluttering the kitchen, say, I'm going to declutter duplicates and only keep the best of each category, or I'm only going to use the things that serve me at least once a month. Everything else gets decluttered. Before you go in to declutter your closet, say something like, I'm only going to keep the items in my closet that I fit into right now and I wear regularly. If you're going to be decluttering toys, decide first. Let's say I'm only going to keep open-ended toys, or toys that don't require batteries, or toys that don't make large messes. So decide first what your criteria is for the toys, and that will make getting rid of everything else a lot easier and faster. Books can be really tough, and we often feel like in order for us to be well read or look like we prioritize education, we need to keep them all. This is just not the case. So maybe set a priority that you're only going to keep the books that you reference often or that you love to reread. An acronym that you can use to help you know what to do to declutter quickly is DASH. If you're feeling stuck or you don't know what to do, just declutter duplicate items. Anything that you have multiples of that you really don't need. Oftentimes we feel like we have to keep a backup or multiple backups of everything just in case. This scarcity mindset or fear of not having an item when we need it can really hang us up. You generally don't need more than one backup, if any backup at all. Remember the 20-20 rule of minimalism, which I think is so effective. If you can get the item in 20 minutes or less from where you are right now for $20 or less, this is something you're on the fence about, go ahead and declutter it. I always like to veer on the side of decluttering more versus decluttering less, just because you will reap so many more benefits by having less inventory in your home. Assign a limit or a boundary to everything. This can be another really helpful thing to do if you're feeling stuck and you just don't know what to do. Make sure you are recognizing and respecting the boundaries of your home. There are boundaries that have already been set within the walls of our space. Every cupboard is a physical and literal boundary, but also specific totes or baskets, any kind of bag or bin that you have, let that be a boundary. I have these in my daughter's room. She loves toys and I think it's so sweet. She loves dress ups and stuffed animals, but she has these two baskets and I know that they are at their limit. Meaning if she gets another dress up costume or if she gets another stuffed animal, we're gonna have to do the one in, one out rule because we've reached the limit or the boundary of that space, and we're gonna respect that. So these could be bins that you already have in your home. This is your limit. Assign a limit to everything and respect that boundary. Set a timer. This is so effective. I love going into full beast mode. Having a specific soundtrack that you only listen to when you're decluttering can also be really effective. This is an experiment that was done on dogs. I think it's called Pavlov's dogs, and these dogs were trained to drool at the sound of a bell. The bell indicated that they were going to be fed, and it's amazing. I know we're not dogs, but I know that we have the same kind of chemical reaction in our brain when we hear something that reminds us of a certain action if we only hear that thing when that action is done. So if you have a soundtrack that you just listen to when you're decluttering, as soon as you turn that on, you're gonna feel more motivated, more inspired, and you're gonna go into beast mode. I have this candle that I have had in my cupboard for months, and it's one of those things that I haven't really known what to do with. I like it, but I don't love it. Have I burned it? No. Have I had the opportunity to burn this? Yes, I have. But the truth is, I actually passed this over for other candles, even though I've had multiple chances and opportunities to burn this item. So asking yourself, have I had the opportunity to use the item, can be incredibly helpful in making fast decisions. You can apply this to anything. Have I had the opportunity to wear this top? Yes, I've had the opportunity many times, but I don't love the way it fits. I love another top even more, so I keep passing over this one. Another one for H as a bonus is to handle it once. Let's say you come across the candle, you say, I don't love this. It's not my favorite. I'm gonna put it in the donate right now. I'm not going to set this aside to think about it a little bit more. No, you're making quick decisions. You're only keeping items that you use or that you absolutely know for a fact you're going to use. You just forgot about them because you were buried in your space. So in this case, you're gonna handle it once. Either keep it if you love it and go put it away right now. This is instant decluttering progress. So you can have somebody relocate it for you. This is where your kids can come in really handy. If you've got somebody home, have a relocator. It's okay though if you don't have anybody decluttering with you. This is your steps for the day. Count it as part of your exercise. Just relocate this item to where you would look for it first or where you would use it. Deciding what to declutter is half the battle. I am calling this stoplight decluttering. This is where you come up with 3 different categories of decluttering tasks. Green being quick little 10 to 15 minute tasks. Yellow being a little bit longer, maybe 20 to 30 minute tasks. And I've left these shots right here are meant for screenshots. So if you're on mobile, that's what these farther away shots are for. But the red, you are going to actually write down on popsicle sticks what is going to take you the most amount of time, maybe an hour or an entire weekend. When you don't know what to do, pull from here. And you just know how much time you have to declutter for that day or that moment, and you're gonna pull that color stick and get to work. So taking the guesswork out of decluttering can really help you make more progress more quickly. If you're somebody who works really well under pressure and setting the timer is something that you've noticed that works really well for you, or maybe you've never tried it and you're gonna do an experiment, but let's say you're using the timer to declutter quickly today. You can just go full beast mode for a set amount of time, but if you wanna break this down even more specifically, set the timer for 1 minute. You're gonna look for trash in the first 1 minute. Timer goes off and you are moving on. Set the timer for 5 minutes on your next go around. You're gonna make 2 piles, one which is donate and one which is relocate. When that timer goes off, you're gonna spend 4 minutes relocating the items. Do it again if you felt like, oh my gosh, I've got tons more energy. Set that 1 minute, 5 minute, and 4 minute timer again, or do this every single day for the next month as a challenge. You will be mind blown how much you can actually accomplish in just 10 minutes. Another strategy for decluttering quickly comes from the minimal mom, who is an awesome inspiration. I will have her channel linked down below. But when she talks about overwhelming spaces, decluttering overwhelming spaces, I love her approach, and it really does help you declutter more quickly. You're actually going to do this in a couple of steps. The first one being you're going to put everything into separate piles based on like items. So all the books in one pile, all the art supplies in one pile, all the clothing items and the toys in another pile. And it really helps you see exactly how much you have. This also reminds me a little bit of Marie Kondo. It's where you really use this visual cue to let yourself know, oh my gosh, my pile of books is massive. Maybe I can actually declutter several, or I've got a lot of t-shirts in this pile. I can probably get rid of a few, the few that I wear the least often, and just keep my favorites. You can also just spend one day setting everything into piles. Then the next day, you're going to tackle one pile as a quick project. I'm just going to tackle all the paper clutter from this room as fast as I can. Set your timer so you can like double down on these tips. But having everything in categories or in piles actually makes the project seem less overwhelming, and it's more straightforward what you actually have and what you need to do. The 80-20 rule states that most people use about 20% of their possessions 80% of the time, or 80% of people's productivity comes from roughly 20% of their effort. The 80-20 rule is generally used in business, like 80% of income or new leads come from 20% of their employees. It's amazing how this applies to so many different things. But when you realize that you're really only using about 20% of the stuff in your house 80% of the time, time, again, it helps you make faster decisions. Well, if this is true, 80% of the time you use about 20% of your possessions, which is true for most all people, then chances are you're not gonna miss it and you can let the item go. Mel Robbins also came up with the 5-second rule, and I love how this applies to decluttering quickly. She says that when we have the instinct to do anything, work out, cook dinner, declutter our space, whatever it could be, we need to act within the first 5 seconds or our brain will actually kill our motivation. Oh my goodness, I know this is true. I've experienced this so many times in my life. So when you feel just the tiniest spark of inspiration or motivation to declutter, act within 5 seconds. Speaking of motivation, if you feel like you could use some, click the video on the screen. I will see you over there.